This is Sports Drive.
Good afternoon. Welcome back into Sports Drive. I'm your host, Preston Moore. Like I mentioned, we have an exciting show. We're going to talk a lot of national sports as well as local stuff. Let's get into it with the national stuff. First, joining me now is DNVR Sports head of live streaming, Kalle Sorbo, who's been up in Las Vegas covering the NBA Summer League. Kalle, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on, Preston.
Absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about the Summer League because I feel like, this year specifically has been one of the biggest years for the NBA Summer League in my memory. Obviously, you've been up there covering the Denver Nuggets. I'm blanking on the word. Recent champions, reigning champions, that's the word. Reigning champions of the NBA. Tell us a little bit about your experience up there and what it's been like at the Summer League, especially in a year, this year, where this rookie class has had a lot of hype around it.
Yeah, it was crazy. Definitely, compared to past summer leagues, the hype was definitely palpable. It was hard to get tickets. The arenas were sold out. Even the top deck was completely full for a lot of these rookie debuts. Wow. So that was really exciting, and it's become a huge, grandiose event in Vegas. Obviously, everybody saw the giant sphere lit up that they just built with Summer League advertising, and the whole NBA world sort of converges on Las Vegas for those three to 5 days, the first little bit of Summer League. And it's really cool just to meet everybody and see different players around. Lots of veterans there to support the rookies and young players as well. So it's a really cool event, and it's really well put on. So shout out to the NBA for putting on an absolute banger of an event.
Yeah, was this your first time covering Summer League?
No, I was there last year as well. So.
Gotcha. So how would you compare the 2 years then? I'm curious, compared to last year's Summer League, what's this one been like?
It was definitely way busier this year. It has become this sort of marquee event of the NBA calendar, and it's supposedly gotten, even compared to last year and the years previous, it's just been building every year. So it was cool to see the arena sold out. It's become a fan event, and it's really an awesome opportunity for fans to get up close and personal with these athletes and coaches. It's a small arena. Athletes just walk around sort of regularly, especially if you're in Cox Pavilion. It's almost like a high school gym size.
Wow.
So it's a really intimate, personal experience getting to watch some NBA basketball. It's really cool.
You primarily obviously cover the Nuggets, obviously just won the NBA championship. Tell us a little bit about what that's been like. Not only, obviously at Summer League, seeing the future Nuggets obviously performing on the court, but even back covering them during their championship run. What has all of that been like from your perspective?
Covering an NBA championship run is overwhelming and exhausting, but it is also one of the coolest things you will ever get a chance to do. It was really exciting when you get close with a team, and our show, the DNVR Nuggets podcast, has been really at this for 4 years now. So we've watched a lot of the steps. We've watched the heartbreak of Jamal's injury and the early years of when Jokic was really cementing himself as a superstar. So seeing that slow build pay off in a championship over time was the most rewarding part by far. But then I was really excited to see sort of this new strategy the Nuggets are going with, loading up on young, late first, second round picks, trying to find role players in the draft, because with the new CBA, bringing in those expensive veterans to fill those spots on the roster is going to become increasingly harder and harder under the new CBA. So the Nuggets front office is really taking a strategy, turning towards some young guys to fill out the back end of their roster. And I think they've done a good job of that. Obviously, they hit on picks like Christian Brown last year, who was a rotation player in the finals for them. And they're really excited about Peyton Watson, who was a first-round pick last year. Second-year player this year. He should slot in for some big minutes this year. And then they have picks like Julian Strother, Jalen Pickett, and Hunter Tyson. I really liked what I saw out of all of them at Summer League. So this sort of strategy of banking on some younger players to fill out your roster, we'll see how it plays out long-term. But it's been interesting to watch sort of play out as the league changes under this new CBA.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I've talked about on this show before. My very, very, very early prediction for next year's NBA Finals is that the Nuggets are going to repeat. Obviously, losing Bruce Brown, that was a huge piece for them in that playoff run. So when it comes to loading up with younger guys, when it comes to prioritizing the draft right now, and making sure that you have a lot of young role players who can come in, and maybe fill the holes left by Bruce Brown. How do you see that going down? Obviously, going into next season, the team's going to be mostly, bringing the game back, running it back with most of their same core going into next season, but still losing Bruce Brown and having those changes. What do you think that strategy of investing in younger players, how is that going to pay off for them? Do you think it could possibly lead to a repeat championship?
Yeah, obviously losing Bruce Brown is huge. He was so good all playoffs and even all regular season, even though the bench was a little bit of a mess. He was really solid through that entire regular season, and that's going to be a huge loss. But I really, really feel like Christian Brown, especially, is ready for a bigger role. Now, the challenging part of that is he's not a ball handler like Bruce Brown is. So even though he's slotted in for some more minutes, I really think they're going to lean into a defensive identity on their bench with Peyton Watson, Christian Brown, and a lot of the other guys they brought in. They're really plus sized at almost every position on their bench. They're long, so I think they're going to lean into a defensive, switching defensive identity on that bench, and I could see it paying off long term. I think it's going to be a little rough during the early parts of the regular season because so many young guys are going to be getting minutes. But you even have some not vets, but some young guys who haven't seen a lot of minutes, like Zeke Naji coming off the bench, and I think that defensive identity will work, especially once you get into the playoffs and you shrink your rotation. Not having a secondary ball handler is going to be a little bit of a struggle, but we saw a stagger work with Jamal Murray running that bench unit through most of the playoffs, and I think that identity will work in large part for them next season as well. And just like you, I think Nuggets are going back to back.
Yeah, I mean personally, and we'll talk about this actually. This is what I was going to segue into. I'm obviously a Spurs fan. I've been pretty vocal about it on this show, especially over the course of the last 2 months. But that being said, if the Spurs don't win it, which I don't expect them to, this upcoming year, I certainly hope the Nuggets do. I want to talk a little bit about the Spurs and the rest of Texas right now. Obviously, as you know, News Channel 10 based in the Panhandle of Texas. We have a lot of Mavericks, Rockets, and Spurs fans, even a little bit of Thunder fans here in the Panhandle, we are, kind of in a little bit close proximity to Oklahoma compared to the rest of Texas. So out of those teams, I know that you maybe didn't get to watch all of their games at the Summer League, but even just covering the NBA, what are your thoughts on, the Texas teams, especially now? I feel like there's a lot going on with these teams. The Spurs and the Rockets both have obviously young cores that are really exciting and may or may not pan out long term. And then the Mavericks bringing in Kyrie Irving and re-signing him to bring him back with Luka. A lot going on with these Texas teams. What is your take on all of that, and who do you see as some of the front runners out of those Texas teams in the next couple of years?
So the Mavs obviously have an elite talent in Luka Doncic, and Kyrie Irving, if he can sort of quiet down the outside stuff and just play basketball for a full year, I think with a little bit more chemistry, that duo should be absolutely devastating offensively. I really like what they did on the margins of their roster this offseason. The Seth Curry signing I thought was really, really smart for the low amount of money they got him on. And then the Grant Williams trade, I obviously think you need some big men out west because you've got Anthony Davis and Jokic. So I really think those two moves around the margins and then solidifying that duo with a little bit more time to build, I think they've got a chance to be in the mix next year. I'm not going to say I really think they have a chance at a title. I don't think their defense is going to be strong enough throughout a playoff run, but I think they should be a really good regular season team. And I wouldn't be surprised if they find themselves in the top 4 seeds out west.